the infamous Missouri, the credit printer galore, the probably single most famous and lusted after premium ship in World of Warships. First free XP ship, first tier 9 premium, was added to the game in 2016 for the then unheard of amount of 750,000 free XP. It was supposed to be something that only players that had grinded for a long time at that point were able to get. It was a lot harder to get free XP back in that time. There wasn't missions, there wasn't clan battles the same way, there wasn't competitive formats that generated guaranteed amounts of XP with these flags that give huge multipliers. So Missouri was quite a bit rarer than it would be now for 750,000 XP. This San Luis just sailing broadside of the cap, early game, gets spotted, doesn't react quick enough, and just like her sister Iowa, Missouri's guns absolutely slap. So no citadels, still 13,000 damage almost on that St. Louis. Crippled, he's going to have to duck out, and my destroyer is now free to cruise around A without a lot of heavy cruiser pressure. But it's coming back. Wargaming has announced Missouri is going to be re-added to the game. There's a few differences. We'll have to talk about them in this video. It will not be the same as the Missouri that you're seeing me playing here. Well, it'll be the same gameplay-wise. This Roan is doing exactly the same thing that San Luis is doing. Also sailing broadside. Also spotted. Also not reacting at all. And that's 35,000 damage citadels this time. So nice start to the game here. But the new Missouri will be added without the insane credit multiplier, the base credit multiplier. So there's a hidden multiplier for every single ship. When Missouri was added, like I said, there hadn't been any other tier 9s, and they buffed the tier 9 credit multiplier for premiums above probably what it should have been. And that core base multiplier, which means any flag multiplies on top of the, doesn't add to the credits amount earned, it multiplies based on this larger multiplier that Missouri has, is the reason why you see easy million, 2 million credit games, even if you don't have particularly brilliant games, because the new flags that have been added, everything that's been added over the last couple of years, it has a multiplicative increase based on the Missouri credit multiplier. The new Missouri will have exactly the same credit multiplier as the other tier 9 premiums they've added since then, so stuff like Jean Bart or Alaska or Kronstadt or those other ships. Well, the performance will be the same. You'll still have these same guns. It'll still be the same historic ship. Everything like that will still be identical. The credit earning, which is the number one sort of lusted after thing, will be taken away, and it's being moved to a permanent combat mission that people who had Missouri before, well, I guess this week, will be able to keep. So for people like myself who got Missouri for free when it originally came out, we'll get to keep it, which is awesome. And since the ship itself isn't overpowered, there's no real reason for it not to be available in the game other than the ridiculous credit multiplier. So by finally removing that, it allows them to bring the ship back into the game and have a lot more players. People have joined the game since 2018. I imagine the vast majority of the player base has joined the game since the ship was last available to earn. So they'll have a chance to have one of the most historic ships, or certainly one of the highest profile battleships of the Second World War. This got myself in a little bit of a pickle here. Focused on shooting that Freddy, and the turning circle for the Iowa classes isn't great. They're long, narrow holes, not the most agile, and I realized at the very last second here, if I didn't turn, I was going to be beached with a couple of battleships right on my broadside. And with the all or nothing armor scheme, when you are dead broadside to enemy battleships of the same tier, you're going to get absolutely punished, exactly the same as you would in the Iowa class. I mean, this is almost identical to the Iowa. There's a few minor differences. We can talk about them in a little bit here. Such as, for example, here I'm set on fire. Missouri, because it was put into the game again in 2016, Missouri has the old pre-buff Iowa class heal. So unlike Iowa, which has the increased heal, Missouri has the original heal that the Iowa class ships were released with. So that's actually a little bit of a nerf compared to Iowa. Guns are exactly the same. And you can see what we're just not even 5 minutes of the game and already at 75,000 damage. This game's going to steamroll pretty quickly here. And I'm top tier, obviously not facing tier 10 battleships. Against tier 10s, the Iowa struggle a little bit more because of the overmatch. But I don't have that monster heal, so I'm actually going to be at a little lower HP here after being focus fired than I would if I was in Iowa, for example. But yeah, Missouri's coming back. I'm super happy about that. It's a historic ship. I mean, it's where the items, the instrument of surrender for the Japanese Empire was signed. It's still a museum ship, one of the most famous museum ships in the world in Pearl Harbor. It's one of the remaining battleships of the Second World War, which there's only a few around the world. It's just an important ship, and it makes no sense to have a naval history game that doesn't have Missouri in it if you have a bunch of Second World War battleships. I really don't like the way they're introducing it for monetization. They know it's a popular ship. Previously, this was available for free XP. This was something that any player could, you didn't have to pay any money. You could grind, you could get your 750,000 free XP at the time, and you could have USS Missouri. But instead of re-adding it with, say, 2 million free XP or 1 million free XP, something like that, comparable to ships like Friesland or the new Groningen or something like this that have been added to the game as free XP ships, unfortunately this time it's only going to be available for doubloons. So it's only going to be available for cash. Okay, understandable. Wargaming's trying to make money off their game. They know that Missouri is going to be popular. So the going price for Tier 9 Premium is absurd. I think, we're talking about 70-ish euros, something around in that price range, or $75 to $80 in the US. I don't know the price in rubles or various other currencies. I'll just go off euros and US dollars. It's a lot of money. Very few people can afford that. Very few people are going to spend that kind of money on a video game. Only, a couple, sort of whales or whatever, but Wargaming's pushing it for monetization. And I think that's the assumption that everybody had. Unfortunately, what it turns out is it's actually only going to be available by loot boxes that you get by spending doubloons, which is extremely unfortunate. So there's people that are going to, Wargaming must know this, they must have internal statistics, people that buy hundreds and hundreds of dollars of loot boxes to get the ship that they want. And with Missouri being, again, an extremely famous ship, something that a lot of people in-game have lusted after, it's the fact that it's been removed, and the fact that they're only having it available for a limited time with this Second World War victory event means that, it's going to be unfortunate that the way that they're monetizing it here, they're taking advantage of the player base's desire to have the ship and basically wringing every last penny possible out of the few people that spend huge amounts of money to support the game. It's a shame. I hate to see this with historical ships, particularly museum ships. I mean, these are ships that you can go visit. They're ships that a lot of people have seen in person. They're ships that a lot of people want to be able to play in a game, and it's just really poor. I don't quite know what happens with the salvo here, by the way. I think my division mate actually smacked that Iowa right before I did, so this could have been a little bit better game. You can see that the steamroll is completely out of control here. This game's going to be over here very rapidly. The one thing with Missouri that's different from Iowa, I should point out, is that Missouri does have a radar. It's not particularly long range, and as a battleship, it's very situationally useful. I would rather have the better heel from Iowa than I would have the radar. It seems like a big deal. Battleship with radar, but in reality, you're almost never close enough to use it. There are some few situations charging down, like say a cruiser that's in smoke, Fiji or Edinburgh or Minotaur or something like that, or it could be situationally useful with destroyers. Generally, if you're close enough to radar a destroyer, you're close enough to eat a bunch of torps though. And with the way the new smoke firing penalties work, right? Like, for example, this cruiser fired at me, right? The Brone here. I didn't need to use radar to spot him. The smoke firing penalty meant that as soon as he fired his guns inside the smoke, I auto-spotted him, so I didn't even need to have the radar there to catch him out. I would consider the radar pretty situational. I wouldn't get this, be like, oh, it's a battleship with radar. Don't really think it makes a big difference. Like I said, I'd rather have the Iowa's improved heel. It's cool. It's an awesome historical ship. I'm glad that it's back in the game. I'm glad that more people have an opportunity to get it. I'm very disappointed at the way that it's been introduced. And I'm a little worried, particularly for the people like myself. I guess it's less important, but the people like myself who've had the ship for a very long time, who got it when it originally came out, that the credit multiplier will not be implemented for combat missions in exactly the same way, and that maybe the high-end earning potential, not that I have 150 million credits at the time making this video or something like this. I don't particularly need lots of credits. It's useful for things like missions where it's earn 5 million credits or whatever during combat missions. But more it's the principle of, having something that was so lusted after that's been advertised, and then to have some kind of a nerf. So hopefully the combat missions are implemented correctly. This game, I think, ends pretty much right here. Try to close it on this Fiji. Gonna give him a little smack, and somebody else sinks on the other side. This game was a complete whitewash. 1.4 million, almost 1.5 million credits in a complete whitewash. This is the advantage of Missouri. You don't have to play very well. It doesn't have to be a big game. This is not a huge tier 9 battleship game by any stretch of the imagination. Just it wasn't, but you gotta love those credits. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, can you give a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you aren't subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you everybody around for the next video. Bye.